From Washington, this is VOA News. Chinese families of missing Malaysian airliner passengers protest vehemently. President Obama warns Russia against further moves into Ukraine. I'm Ray Kouguell reporting from Washington. Angry relatives of the passengers on board the missing Malaysian jetliner protested in front of the Malaysian embassy in Beijing Tuesday as the search for the plane was suspended due to bad weather. About 100 Chinese family members held signs and demanded to know the truth about the plane, which Malaysian authorities have concluded crashed into a remote area of the southern Indian Ocean. Two-thirds of the 239 people on board the plane were from China, and many of their family members say they will not believe the Malaysian government's conclusions until officials provide proof. Australian Defence Minister David Johnston says the search area is an extremely challenging environment.
Remember, this part of the world, this Southern Ocean, has shipwrecked many sailors in our history in Western Australia. It is rough. Sea State 7, there are 20-30 metre waves. It is very dangerous, even for big Panamax class ships.
Satellites and planes have spotted possible debris from the aircraft, but so far there's been no confirmed discovery of any pieces. President Obama says he is concerned Russia may be poised to encroach further into Ukraine. White House correspondent Luis Ramirez is traveling with the president and has this report from The Hague.
President Obama's warning came at the end of a nuclear summit where the Ukraine crisis overshadowed discussions about preventing nuclear terrorism. At a press conference after the summit, Mr. Obama told reporters he is concerned about reports that Russia is massing troops along the Ukrainian border. He said those troops have a right to be on their own soil, but warned they should go no further.
Obviously, the facts on the ground are that the Russian military controls Crimea. There are a number of individuals inside of Crimea that are supportive of that process. There's no expectation that they will be dislodged by force.
Using military force to remove Russia is not an option that Mr. Obama and U.S. partners have discussed here. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, The Hague.
President Obama says the United States and its European allies have plans for further sanctions on Russia if needed. The first president of Ukraine, Leonid Kravchuk, warns that if Russia invades the mainland of his country, there could be catastrophic results. VOA's Steve Herman has more.
The man who served as independent Ukraine's first leader is warning that war will spread far beyond his country if Russian troops move across the border. Leonid Kravchuk, speaking with VOA News in the Ukrainian capital, says he still hopes international pressure can prevent further aggression after Russia took control of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula.
Але якщо раптом станеться найгірше і Росія піде війною на Україну,
Kravchuk says Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be satisfied only with Ukraine. That will not be the stopping point, and this can be the beginning of the Third World War. Kravchuk, president from 1991 to 1994, is calling for the West to impose tougher sanctions because of Russia's actions and the military threat it poses. Steve Herman, VOA News, Kiev.
President Obama is calling for an end to the National Security Agency's massive collection and storage of data about Americans' phone calls. Under a plan unveiled Tuesday, the government would have to obtain permission from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to obtain data from phone companies on calls connected to suspected terrorists. The leader of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood and almost 700 members of the group went on trial Tuesday on charges including murder and inciting violence. A few hours after it started, the trial of Mohammed Badia and the others was adjourned until April 28th, when judgment and sentencing is expected. North Korea fired 2 medium-range Rundog missiles today into the Sea of Japan, also known as the East Sea in Korea. The South Korean Yonhap news agency says the missiles fired have a range of about 1,300 kilometers. The report says the missiles flew about 450 kilometers. The United States and Russia may be at odds over Ukraine, but they are still cooperating in space. A Russian Soyuz rocket took off from Kazakhstan Tuesday to fly 2 cosmonauts and a U.S. astronaut to the International Space Station. They'll spend the next 6 months aboard the station carrying out a series of scientific experiments. The current space station crew, a Russian, an American, and a Japanese astronaut, will return home in May. I'm Ray Kouguell, VOA News. More at voanews.com.